Hey, and welcome to another episode of um, Rankum. This is going to be a really fun one. We're doing top 12 WWE Hall of Famers, and coming up first, he totally wasn't a last minute addition. Is Richard Schwartz? Richard, how's it going?
Oh, doing good. I'm always a last minute addition because why not? You can't get rid of me, especially when Ryan's going to be on the call. I have to be on. It's like the new rule. No, I'm excited. It's probably a very tough list for me because there's so many people that would love to nominate, but you can only fit 12. Not all of my 12 is going to come from me, but I'm excited to hear everyone's nominations and my own. It's going to be fun.
Next up is someone that actually really surprised me when he said he wanted on this because I don't think we've ever talked WWE at all. It's Kirk. Kirk, how's it going?
Good. Yeah, I'm really excited about this. Yeah, I'm more of an old school wrestling fan, but I'm really excited about this topic. Like Richard said, there's so many people. WWE Hall of Fame, we were talking a little bit off the air, hasn't always really taken itself seriously. So I'm really excited to nominate a solid 12 class inductee for the Hall of Fame.
And then next up, we've got first time panelist on here. We've got Andrea. Andrea, how's it going?
I'm doing great. Thanks for inviting me. I love wrestling, as most of you might or might not know. And I've been watching the WWE since the Attitude Era. So this is gonna be so much fun to discuss with you guys.
And last but not least, we got Ryan Payne. Ryan, how's it going?
It's going pretty good. I apologize, Malcolm. I was gonna be a bit of a late arrival because the funny thing was I was making dinner and I had put something on the stove when you sent me that call. So I mean, it's gonna sit to rest. The problem is that, but it's just like I'm probably gonna take one quick dip out for a quick minute, but while you guys get started, but then I'm gonna be right back, like I said. But I still look forward to talk wrestling. I just gonna make sure I have the oven preset so it won't go off.
And that's totally fine. But how the show works is you're going to go around the table and each nominate a Hall of Fame that we think deserves to be in a top 12. And for this, I decided that because they would have been inducted this year had COVID not happened, anyone who was going to be inducted this year do count for this list. So if they want to nominate the Bella Twins, you can go ahead and nominate the Bella Twins if they want. And that which brings me to the other thing is we're going to just nominate any tag teams and stuff as the group, just because it makes it easier than going. Then having multiple Ric Flairs on here for all his accomplishments. But with that being said, we're going to go to Richard to nominate first.
All right. The first person I am nominating is actually the wrestler that kind of got me into the WWE. WWF, he was always so exciting. He is a fantastic wrestler. He started off as a tag team, but once he became the singles competition, he did extraordinary things. He's had great matches like Bret Hart, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and the last two of his career matches against The Undertaker, it is Mr. WrestleMania. It is the showstopper. It is HBK, Shawn Michaels. This man personifies everything. He is great in the ring, great on the mic. Sweet Chin Music is fantastic. So that is my first nomination, Shawn Michaels.
Kirk, what do you say about Shawn Michaels?
Yeah, Michaels has the pedigree. He has the longevity. His career spans several eras. I think if you look at him and Undertaker, they're the two guys that made it. Started back mid to late 80s and still made it up to very recently, and you saw their careers evolve. I mean, he's held the titles, he's had multiple championships. So yeah, I think he definitely belongs on this list. I'm going to give him a yes.
Andrea, what do you say about Shawn Michaels?
I'm gonna give him a yes too. What really stuck out to me was their match at one of the WrestleManias, wherein before he super kicked the Undertaker, he said, "I'm sorry," and then he did it. And then, he lost that match though. But it was awesome. But it was such an awesome match between those two, and I really think that Shawn Michaels has charisma. He's very entertaining in the ring. And he's really one of those guys that if you put him in today's generation, his gimmick would still work.
Yep. Ryan, what would you have said about Shawn Michaels?
Michaels, yeah, he definitely would have been an automatic yes for me because when I got into wrestling, it was like towards the time when Michaels was WWF commissioner. When he came back into wrestling, it was like finally I get to hear what so many of my friends who were following WWF like when they got around 94, 93, and it was just kind of like getting to witness Shawn Michaels in a new form of his career. And then now, thanks with the subscription networks, I see some of his old matches, and I do get why Shawn Michaels is really so beloved. But even at that time, I still loved Shawn Michaels in his later career, so that he would have been a yes.
Yeah, Shawn Michaels would have been an absolute yes for me as well. He's just always been great, and basically what everyone else said is what I would have said too. But Kirk, who's the next one you're going to nominate?
My nomination is actually the wrestler that they invented the WWE Hall of Fame for. He's the first inductee, and that is Andre the Giant. Andre, people, I think wrestling fans my age and younger don't really realize before there was Hulk Hogan, there was Andre. Andre was the most popular wrestler in the country and the world, to the point where Vince McMahon Sr. had him under contract, and that basically gave him power over every other territory in the world because all he had to tell another promoter was, do this for me or give me this, and I'll let you have Andre for a week. And there was nothing more. There's no bigger draw than Andre. There's nothing more valuable than a week worth of matches with Andre the Giant because of how popular he was. And that's, he was popular in America, in Japan, all over the place. Anywhere he went, everybody knew Andre. He was the first really big pop culture crossover. People even today, people who've never seen a wrestling match know who Andre the Giant is. I think even more than Hogan or The Rock or Stone Cold, Andre has permeated popular culture. He like I said, he was so popular, such a huge draw. Later he had that big feud with Hogan, and they kind of put WrestleMania on the map with that match, and that was the pass the torch to Hogan. But I think Andre still, up until his unfortunate passing, still maintained that level of popularity. So I definitely think just because of the mark he made in the wrestling world, he definitely deserved to be on this list.
Yeah. Andrew, what do you say about Andre?
Yeah, I would have to agree. He's also in my list. He's the one who actually influenced the big guys that we have today, like Braun Strowman or the Big Show during his time. So he's very influential to those guys who are considered the big guys. They're they have the typical unstoppable thing, which came from Andre the Giant. So he's definitely on my list, also on the top 12 Hall of Famers.
Ryan, what do you say about Andre?
To me, he is a no-brainer, as you mentioned, Malcolm. He is the reason why WWE created the Hall of Fame in the first place, was to honor him. And even now, his legacy is still felt. I mean, there has just been recent documentaries about Andre the Giant, about how he was like on the road, how he was like in his professional as a wrestler. And even then, he's still ingrained in our pop culture for many people who are not or are aware of The Princess Bride, Blaze Fezzik. So Andre, he is a huge staple, and he would have been one of the first names I would have immediately mentioned for this list.
Yep. Anybody want a peanut? Yeah. Andre would have been an easy yes for me. I've watched. I've got a few of the old WrestleManias on DVD, but despite, even from his appearances and other things, he's one of those ones that absolute yes for this. Richard, what would you have said?
Oh, it's absolutely yes. I mean, he was a man of few words in the WWE, but his presence alone is what made especially the rivalry with Hulk Hogan so great, because it was just like David versus Goliath, and Kirk only nominated him because he likes The Princess Bride.
Richard, it's a fantasy movie.
But Andrea, what's next nomination?
Okay, my next nomination would be Stone Cold Steve Austin. he was the one who really defined the attitude era for me. He was the one who, um, suffice it to say, his rivalry with Vince McMahon is really legendary. His transition from stunning Steve Austin to Stone Cold Steve Austin, at King of the Ring is really one of those things that are memorable in uh, in the way it was presented to us. And because of his transition from Stunning Steve, it made the Attitude Era and the rivalry between Vince McMahon and Eric Bischoff all the more interesting during the Monday Night Wars. That's why I'm nominating Stone Cold Steve Austin in the Hall of Fame.
Ryan, what do you say about Stone Cold Steve Austin?
I, of course, would have said yes to Austin 316. This man was the reason why I became a fan of the WWF. Because growing up, I was a big fan of the WCW, of the wrestlers there. So it was like you would need to find a good wrestler who had the charisma, and just the strong fan following and personality to get me involved with, to get me interested in. And Stone Cold was that guy. He would have been, I mean, he wasn't just going to be a yes. He would have been a hell yes.
Austin 316 says you just made the list. Yeah, it would have been an absolute yes for me. Stone Cold has just been one of those guys that has kept coming back even after he retired. I don't think he's ever played a match since he was being inducted, but he definitely popped back for appearances and all that. Just constantly, he's one of those ones that always gets the crowd riled up and all that. But yeah, Richard, what would you have said about Stone Cold?
I mean, I always want to say no just for the joke answer because he's Stone Cold freaking Steve Austin. I mean, he's WWF's happy accident. The whole Austin 316 only happened because Triple H effed up when he did the whole curtain call with the Kevin Nash and Scott Hall. If that wasn't it, we might not have had Stone Cold Steve Austin. So it's an absolute hell yes. He's one of the reasons why WWE's won against WCW.
But yeah, Kirk, what would you have said about Stone Cold?
Yeah, I mean, the thing about Stone Cold is it's almost like a tale of two careers because everybody remembers him as Stone Cold and everything he did during the Attitude Era. But I was a big fan of this guy back in his WCW days, as Andre mentioned, Stunning Steve. With his TV title run, his U.S. title runs, his tag team title runs as the Hollywood Blondes with Brian Pillman. I mean, he did a lot of, he was in the Dangerous Alliance with Paulie Dangerously. He did a lot of great things in WCW before he even crossed over. He just stayed there and made that, his niche. I think we still would be. You talk about Stunning Steve Austin, how great he was. So yeah, that's make that unanimous.
Clearly, his best gimmick was the Ringmaster. We can all agree.
Oh yeah.
He was not happy.
But with that, we go to Ryan for his nomination.
Okay. All right. Well, for my nomination, I immediately could have picked someone that I was incredibly familiar with out of the list, but I decided to pick a wrestler that I've only watched a few matches, only because of my old subscription of the WWE Network. And my nomination is Pedro Morales. This guy, he has a huge history in wrestling, not just with the WWF. Even back then, when it was the 3WF, the Worldwide Wrestling Federation. And also, he had a huge, extensive career in NWA. I picked him because not only was he huge at the time, he was one of the first few to actually have a very long reign with the WWF Championship. I believe he holds the fifth all time at 1,027 days. He also held the Intercontinental Championship for a record of 619 days, and he is the first someone of a Latino or Hispanic or descent to be nominated for the Hall of Fame, to be inducted, the first Latino to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. And it's not just that. I mean, he's had many great matches with some of the wrestlers I saw on the list: Andre the Giant, Classy Freddie Blassie, Buddy Rogers, Bruno Sammartino. I mean, if you definitely went back to look at his career in NWA and the old WWF, you'd see that this man was a huge staple.
Yeah, this is one I'm not familiar with myself. But this is one that, based on the records alone, because like he's definitely been that trailblazer for a lot of the records and stuff. So I'm inclined to. I'm actually going to go say yes, but it's going to depend. See what everyone else says. Richard,
Yeah,
what do you what Richard? What do you say about Pedro?
Here's the thing: I'm not familiar with Pedro Morales, but his legacy I am familiar with, and me saying no just because didn't grow up with him seems wrong to me. So I'm saying yes because of his legacy. Because like just because I didn't grow up with him does not mean people don't remember him. So it's a yes for me.
Kirk, what would you have said about Pedro?
Yeah, I came into wrestling kind of like right as he was out, so I never really experienced it firsthand. But yeah, his record, I think he's the first person ever to hold the WWF World Tag Team and Intercontinental championships, and that wasn't repeated until Bret Hart did 20-some years ago, or 20-some years later. So yeah, just a person of color to have such a huge influence and such a huge career at that time just speaks so much to his talent, his ability. Yeah, definitely. I think he definitely deserves to be on this list.
And Andrea, what would you have said about Pedro?
Yes, I would have to agree with my fellow panelists here. Just like Richard, I really didn't grow up or didn't really watch a lot of his matches. But based on his accomplishments, he must be a really, really good wrestler to be able to face people like Andre the Giant and those people. So and hold championships at the same time and defend them. So I'm gonna have to say yes.
And I do want to say, I like Richard and Andrea. I'm not familiar with them, but it's because I had the WWE Network. I was able to see some of the old matches. If I didn't, I would not have recommended him for this list. I didn't want to be that subjective, but at the same time, I don't want to be hypocritical from Malcolm knows of my many times on this on Rankum.
But I mean, but yeah, it's back on to me for my first nomination, and I'm going to bring up one and one of these people have just recently passed away just very recently. Like after I made this, I didn't plan for this at all, but it's the Road Warriors. Like these people, I think deserve to be here. Like their tag matches have always been sort of entertaining. Whether it's sort of them wrestling or their manager, they've just always been around, and it's sad that now I think it was
Animal.
Animal. It was I do I always do not remember which one's which, but it's like it is sad that Animal has passed away recently, but like he could rest in peace and is probably up in heaven with Hawk chatting out up now. But Richard, what do you say about the Road Warriors?
See, this is hard. I love the Legion of Doom. I had their action figures when I was a kid. They would have been so much bigger if it wasn't for Hawk's drug problems. That's my major problem. Like they were but every time when they were there, you know they were there. I'm saying yes, even though like they were one of my favorite tag teams growing up. They would have been bigger if it wasn't because of Hawk had a major drug problem. That's why they didn't get as big as they should have been. So I'll say yes for me. I love the Legion of Doom, so yes.
Kirk, what do you say about the Road Warriors?
Yeah, absolute no-brainer. This would have been my next nomination. Greatest tag team ever. Only team ever to hold AWA, NWA, WWF, All Japan titles. That's never been matched. The most imitated team. I mean, after them, you saw Demolition, Powers of Pain, the Master Blasters. Everybody trying to recreate that Road Warrior energy, no one is ever able to do it. And they still, in the business today, they still have what's referred to as the Road Warrior pop, which is basically the biggest crowd response you possibly get when you totally blow the crowd up. That's the Road Warrior pop. So yeah, definitely belong on this list.
Yeah, and it definitely happens as soon as their theme song starts with the "Oh What a Rush."
Mm-hmm.
Oh, what a rush. And their tag team finisher was so devastating to look at every single time.
Tuesday
yeah.
Device. Oh my god.
But with that, they will be on this list. Andrea, what would you have said about the Road Warriors?
Yeah, I would have said yes also. Because the Road Warriors are like I consider them one of the quintessential tag teams. This what Richard Schwartz said about Hawk's drug problems and stuff. I usually look at a Hall of Fame thing as what they actually did in the ring, regardless of what they did outside of it. So I would have to consider both Animal and Hawk as one of those teams that you can put them in any era and they would still work. So their tag team legacy for me is like timeless. So I'm gonna have to say yes.
And Ryan, what would you have said about the Road Warriors?
Yeah, they would have been a yes too. Despite their legacy, when I did see epic matches of the Legion of Doom, or whenever they changed them to LOD or LOD 2000, it was still the same. Despite the changes they did, they were still the best. And yeah, the Road Warrior pop. I knew nothing about that. I always thought the biggest pop I ever came across was whenever I hear the ECW chant or whenever the Dudley Boys had made a reunite. But no, when I saw the Road Warrior pop, it blew everything out of the water. So yes, even despite his passing, I still love the Road. I still like watching a Road Warriors match if I ever come across it on YouTube or anything on IWTV.
But we go back to Richard. Richard, what is your next nomination?
So far, we got a fantastic list so far. So it's super great. My next nomination is someone like when you think of wrestling, you immediately think of this individual. He thrived in MWA. He thrived in WWF. He thrived in WCW. Came back to the WWE and just thrived. He personifies just the heel. When you think of a heel, you think of this individual. I'm going with the Nature Boy, Ric Flair. He is just, wait, you hate him when he's a heel. He's the leader of the Four Horsemen. He was such a huge member in freaking Evolution. He's the Nature Boy. Woo! Ric Flair.
Kirk, what do you say about Ric Flair?
Okay, quick clarification. If we nominate Flair here, does that put the Horsemen in?
That is a good one, honestly.
Well, Flair has his own one,
Okay.
so you can bring up the Horsemen at a later date.
So. Okay, if that's the case, and I'm kind of showing my hand here, I'm going to say no to this one, just because I don't want to take up a space twice. So I'm gonna say no to Flair at this point.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
Andrea, what do you say about Ric Flair?
Ric Flair as an individual and not as part of a group is still a great wrestler. He won a lot of WWE titles. He's very entertaining during his time. He's a great heel. He's one of those really snooty characters during his time that you really want to hate. So I'm gonna say yes to his accomplishments as a single individual.
Ryan, what do you say about Ric Flair as an individual?
Here's the funny thing is how when everyone remembered Ric Flair for his heel legacy, I remember Ric Flair during the NWO days of him being a face. So it was kind of like I'm introduced to this Ric Flair fighting against the cool heels. So when I start learning of his heel history, I'm like, literally two separate careers I am watching at the same time. But even then, yeah, him part of Evolution, the fact that his match against Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 24 is still one of the most emotionally charged matches I have ever watched. And look, despite what he did after his career, going with different companies, it still showed that Ric Flair, he had that passion to wrestle and to entertain fans. To me, he eclipsed the Horsemen. Not more like he's greater than, but it was just he's one of the few wrestlers from that stable to have the longevity he had. So I will give a yes.
Yeah. Which means it's...
Kirk said no, Andrea said yes, I said yes, and...
That's 3.
Yeah, no, it's definitely 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I was talking to myself.
Where did
yeah,
Andrea go? Oh, there she is.
What do you, Malcolm?
Oh
We
no,
can
no,
hear
it's
you.
all
Yeah.
good. Yeah, but like I've got it set to be. If you turn the camera off, you're still in the stream. Like you can say stuff, we can still hear you. So, um, but anyway, yeah, I would have lent no for the same reason as Kirk, but Ric Flair is going to be on this list as a individual.
I love the Four Horsemen, but Ric Flair was the Four Horsemen. Without him, the Four Horsemen would not have worked.
I mean, yeah, it's one of it's one of those ones like he's people are going to be upset that he's not made the list in some form or another. We're not going to piss anyone off that way. But with that,
I'm okay with what happens with the people. If they're angry, you can make your own top 12 list or your top 10 and put Flair in there.
but with that, we go back to Kirk.
Okay. Okay, I think it's time. We got a lot of good wrestlers on here. We got a tag team. I want to bring up somebody. I want to bring up our first non-wrestler. This person had an amazing career as a professional wrestler early on, but really made his mark as a manager and later on as a broadcaster. And that's Bobby the Brain Heenan. I think Heenan set the standard as the quintessential heel manager. And you look at the stable of the guys he managed, Big John Studd, King Kong Bundy, Rick Rude, Mr. Perfect, just a who's who. And if you look at the 80s, just his called a character arc over the 80s, just his relentless pursuit of Hulk Hogan and trying to destroy Hulk Hogan. He's the one that turned Andre heel and sent him after Hogan, just so desperately wanting to just playing that foil to Hogan so well throughout the 80s. And I think that's really what pushed Hogan to be, Hulkamania to be what it is, having a bad guy like that just behind the scenes all the time. And just his nobody was funnier on the mic. Nobody's more entertaining. Nobody's more fun to watch. I love, he managed Flair later on, but he just watching him, I was always excited when Heenan was on Heenan's promo. Even though I might hate him, I might hate his guys. He's always so sold on what he was saying, what he was doing, and he was just the perfect manager. Then later, when he retired, it went on to become a broadcast journalist, as he put it, both in WWF and later WCW. I mean, he was the best on the, behind the camera on the mic there. His calling of matches, just his, again, bringing his personality to it, was so fantastic. So I don't think you have the, the 80s, the Rock and Wrestling, the 80s, WWF, that huge run. Heenan was a big part of that. And later on, even in WCW and the NWO and the Monday Night Wars, he played a big role in that as well. So I definitely think, even as a non-wrestler, he belongs on this list.
But Andrea, what do you say about Bobby the Brain Heenan?
Brain Heenan, I would have to agree with Kirk. He's a yes for me too. He's on my list actually, as one of those non-wrestlers. But he really is a very, very entertaining heel manager. And he was able to really make the wrestlers under his stable be unlikable. So he's one of those guys that really, really work as one of those guys that you really punch in the face. So he's a yes for me.
Ryan, what do you say about Bobby the Brain Heenan?
We can't hear you.
Sorry, I had dogs barking. I completely forgot. He was the next person I was going to suggest, honestly, because Heenan is one of the few managers on the Hall of Fame roster who is guaranteed, like what Kirk just said, the people he represented, the fact that whether he was on commentary or in an interview segment or just on the ring, you wanted to see this guy not most likely get punched in the face for whenever he said something bad about people he didn't like. But you mainly wanted to see his comeuppance, especially at WrestleMania 3, or no, not WrestleMania 3, but in the later WrestleManias when Andre turned on Heenan and just slapped him around. That was a big face pop, not just for Andre, but it was a great way for Andre's later career after WrestleMania 3 to show that not this, so he still goes out on a high note. But so yes, Bobby the Brain Heenan.
But yeah, this would have been the easiest for me as well. Like, there's a reason Bobby the Brain Heenan is one of the few managers to be inducted on their own and not part of the group of people that they're associated with. He's just like, and to me, this one, Bobby the Brain Heenan kind of reminds me of Cody Newberry in a way, just because like he brings out the heel side to other players. Like I would never have thought Nicholas Till could make a great heel, but it's really not lined enough Cody. But yeah, but Richard, what would you have said about Bobby the Brain Heenan?
Oh, it would have been a yes for me. When it comes to managers, it was either Bobby the Brain Heenan or Paul Bearer, and as long as one of them got on the list, I was happy. So it would have been a hard yes for me.
But with that, we go back to Andrea for your next nomination.
Well, we would if she was still here.
I believe she's still here. We can still hear her.
Yeah.
I'm still here, you guys. Okay, my next nominee, I think we should put a female in here. So I'm nominating the Fabulous Moolah. She's one of the. I'm nominating the Fabulous Moolah into this particular list because she was the one who actually is one of those pioneers in women's wrestling. Her character is also like one of those things that you love to hate. She is somebody who really had great rivalries with Mae Young, with other female wrestlers of her time. So I'm nominating the Fabulous Moolah for that particular reason.
Ryan, what do you say about the Fabulous Moolah?
I was in the same mindset as Andrea to nominate a female on this list, but I had a different person in mind, but it's not going to change. I don't want to be like, oh, I don't want this person on, but I want my person on. I don't know. I mean, I think Moolah's great. I don't know. Her history cannot be denied. She had. Oh, I'm just torn here. Oh, you know what? I'm just gonna leave it in the hands of the rest of you guys. I'm just gonna say no. I don't know. I guess I'm just torn between Moolah and another person I want to nominate.
Yeah, I'm just as torn of this, but yeah, I mean, I do think this is one of those things. There's really not a lot of females in the Hall of Fame for all start. I'm also going to say no because there's a different one I want to nominate, which I think deserves to be here more. But yeah, but Moolah is great. Richard, what do you say about her?
If this was a top 12 top female wrestler, she would absolutely be on this list. The thing is, since we're putting everyone together in the top 12, and there definitely should be a female wrestler on here. It's just I was thinking of someone else in mind because Moolah was great, was a wrestler. Her mic skills weren't as great as the person I was thinking in mind as another person. So it is also a no for me. But if this was a top 12 WWE female wrestler, she would absolutely be on the list. Just when we're combining everyone.
Kirk, what would you have said?
See, this disappoints me. I definitely think Moolah belongs on the list. She was. I think because you look at the females, most of the females on the list, female wrestlers, and they kind of. I see them as okay. This one came in and was big for a while, and then this one took their place, and this one took their place, and it wasn't like there's nobody there who really stands out as greater than any other. I think Moolah is really the only one who, if you're looking at top 12 all-time Hall of Famers, I think Moolah was the only one with her. Just just being the trailblazer she was, the longevity. I mean, she came in. I think it was WrestleMania 1 or 2 and fought Wendy Richter, and kind of got her over and got women's wrestling over in that era. And even during the Attitude Era, her and Mae Young kind of did their comedy bit, but they're still very much involved, and they kind of led that women's movement. So it disappoints me because, like I said, I can't think of another female who stands out enough to deserve to be on the list. So it's a bummer that Moolah didn't make it, but I definitely would have said yes.
For me, she probably would have been
Somebody just went to put the ballot in.
I mean, for me, she probably would have been the number 13 slot for me. Like she would have been that close. But Ryan, sort of, what is your next nomination?
Well, that was the thing that conflicted me because my nomination was someone who, like Moolah, was a great trailblazer during their career, but also like Moolah had a great second life in wrestling, and that is Mae Young. With Mae Young, I mean, she didn't have the history that Moolah had with WWF in the 80s or in the 90s, like in the 70s and 80s, like getting women over like Wendy Richter, Alundra Blaze. But with Moolah's early career, like being part of the NWA, being the first women to hold their Florida championship, the United States championship, like getting wrestling, almost helping kickstart wrestling in Canada by training with Stu Hart. It was also her later career in the WWF in the 90s where, she and Moolah at their old age, even though they were mainly there for like some of the funny stuff, like for some of the comedy skits, but at the same time, it was still kind of, looking back at what they did, it was very interesting. Like, I mean, of course, there was the whole comedy skit with Mark Henry that we don't want to talk about, but it was whenever she interacted with other female wrestlers like Ivory, like Trish Stratus, Lita, or even in the early careers and even the mid-2000s with women wrestlers like Beth Phoenix and Michelle McCool and Layla, the fact that they still interacted with them and still like made them feel important, give the women time to wrestle, especially in the 2000s when women's wrestling was starting to become not taken as seriously in the WWE. So that was my nomination, Mae Young.
Yeah, that's for this reason. I kind of wish that they would induct Mae Young and Fabulous Moolah as a unit because quite often, like they always did stuff together. And like Mae Young is the one I was thinking of, so I'm going to say yes to Mae Young. Richard, what do you say about Mae Young?
I mean, that's who I was also thinking of, even though I love Fabulous Moolah as well. Though, because Mae Young was one of the few people who traumatized me as a kid, especially I think it was that whole, I forgot I think it was Royal Rumble or WrestleMania, she flashed everyone and they did not catch that quick. But like her presence for me, like in the WWE, was always entertaining. It was always so much fun. And then looking back at like the career, like I think she did have like a second life. So I say yes for me. That was who I was thinking of.
Kirk, what do you say about Mae Young?
See, the thing about the Mae Young, like the stuff that she did later on, I mean, I just felt bad for her. Like knowing the kind of person Moolah was behind the scenes. And I don't know as much about Mae Young, like personally. But I just have whatever Mae Young did, and she didn't do like the weird stuff that Mae Young did. But whatever Moolah did, I feel like she was in control of that. And Mae Young just seemed like I don't even like. And again, I know it was the person it was part of her character, but it just seemed like they were kind of like taking advantage of this older woman. And I really didn't, especially like the flashing thing and the Mark Henry thing. That was just, I mean, that got a little gratuitous. And because that, like I said, I think just based on pure wrestling, I went with Moolah. So I'm going to say no to Mae Young.
Okay. Andrew, what did you say about Mae Young?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with her on this one. It was kind of sad for me to see Mae Young like in those situations with Mark Henry, the whole hand thing. It's really, really. At least Moolah during that time was able to, yeah, according with what Kirk said, I think Moolah during that time still had a little bit of control of what she wanted to do. Whereas Mae Young is what she did in some of those things was really kind of sad for me. So I'm gonna have to say no.
Yeah, but I mean, but with that, Mae Young does make this, but yeah,
I can understand. I guess for me, it was just knowing that stuff made me interested to see what Mae Young's career was. I mean, it may have not worked for everybody. It was just like this. I just wanted to throw her name out there.
like I honestly, like for me, like I came to wrestling late, so it's probably more familiar with Mae Young's comedy sketches and stuff than Moolah because I've saw more of those. But anyway, it's on to me. I'm kind of conflicted before I want to bring up. But I'm going to go this way because this is a really great voice. This is another one that's not really a wrestler, but is another big voice of in the WWE that you can never deny. Like they get it. As ring announcers go, Howard Finkel is one that I think deserves to be here because he's one of those ones which he quite every time you hear him announce stuff, like he's always there. He's always been one of those ones which a lot of people go to when it comes to ring announcers and that. But yeah, Richard, what do you say about Howard Finkel?
Oh, that's a hard one. I really like Howard Finkel. Like his career, like everyone hated him when he was actually a ring announcer, but but at the same time, I think that was his character. And he's done. I know it's a yes from me. He's done some of the most like iconic. Like he's announced some of the as a ring announcer some of the most iconic matches. When you think, especially the Royal Rumble, when you hear he usually did the announcing for the Royal Rumble, and very iconic in that sense. I will say yes.
Yeah. Although I'm going to say using his voice for the, I want to say Edge Randy Orton match at the start was probably a little bit corny, but Kirk, what do you say about Howard Finkel?
This is tough for me because I mean we're running out of spaces here, and there are a lot of wrestlers I want to get on there. But the thing is, like my earliest memories of professional wrestling before I even really knew, like as a very small child, I just remember I don't remember what the matches were, but I remember Finkel standing in the middle of the ring with that big MSG mic hanging down and announcing the matches. Yeah, I'd love to get him in, and if we were doing like a special like side list of non-wrestlers, I'd definitely put him on. But just because, like I said, we are running low on space, and there are a lot of names that I still think really deserve to be on here, I'm going to unfortunately have to say no, but I hate to do it.
That's definitely fair. Andrea, what do you say about Howard Finkel?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to also agree with Kirk on this one. We are running out of space, and there are really some people on this list that really, I believe, that really deserve to be there. It's just unfortunate that Howard Finkel did not make my list. But if we do have a list of non wrestlers in it, I would definitely put him in.
Yep. Which means it's on you, Ryan, to decide.
Well, I'm not going to waste time beating around the bush. I'm also going to say no because there are a few wrestlers I do want to put on the list, and I'm not saying we need a list of non-wrestlers. But if you come back to this, if you do a second top 12 of WWE Hall of Famers, I will immediately want to nominate Howard Finkel on that list. I mean, I still love. Looking back, his voice. It should have been something that stuck out to me, but it was during my time, didn't pay attention to ring announcers. But then you look back, just the fact like, introducing the challenger. Just that deep voice. And also listening to Booker T's podcast on how he felt he made it when he heard Howard Finkel's voice. It was just like cutting my heart here, but God, there are a few wrestlers I do want to recommend for this list.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I did consider separating this into wrestlers and non-wrestlers, but there's one of those cases that looking at them, I didn't think there's really enough non-wrestlers on there for them to have their own list.
Sure,
but yeah, with that we go to Richard for his next nomination.
Yeah, we definitely are running out of lists, so I'm going to kind of do the cheap way out and nominate a group that features a lot of people that we could get on the list just in case. And it's this group gave the WWF a run for its money. This group is probably the reason why the WCW was in a war with WWE, and I am nominating the NWO.
Ooh.
I mean, Hulk Hogan, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall. The three of those people alone in the NWO is what gave, WCW a chance to actually win against WWF. You've had they had some of the most iconic storylines. Sure, at the end of the career, the NWO they had way too many people in towards the end, but the beginning of the NWO is what, like, it fascinated people. You had like even audience members, wearing their NWO shirts. I mean, you had people like, I mean, if you thought WWE or wrestling was real at a point when you were a kid, and you'd be terrified of the NWO. So that's my nomination, but we'll see what happens. I think great group.
I'm not going to lie, that wasn't the way I thought you were going
Yeah.
when you said
Yeah.
terrorizing. But Kirk, what do you say about the NWO?
I think, a couple of things here. Individually, I think there are guys in that group that don't deserve Hall of Fame recognition based on their talent and their careers. I think some people just wrote some coattails to make a name for themselves. And I even as it was happening, I was not a big fan of the NWO. I just thought it was lazy booking, and I think it kind of, it was one of those like early high payoff things, but I think ultimately it's what led to the demise of WCW because it just ran out of gas and they had put all their chickens in that basket, and once that was over, they had nowhere to go with it. And they just drove it into the ground with bringing, and you listen to behind the scenes now how much the wrestlers hated that, because it was like everybody, the reason why they had 50 guys in the NWO is because nobody wanted to be the guy getting squashed by the NWO, so everybody wanted to join. So it was just messy booking, and they drove it in the ground. You had the Wolf Pack and the red and the black and everything, and they just wouldn't let it go. It wouldn't let it die. So I'm going to say no to the NWO.
Yeah. And Andrea, what do you say about the NWO?
Yeah, this is a tough one for me. I like the NWO in its initial stages, but in retrospect, I always kept on thinking whether or not the NW would have worked if Hulk Hogan didn't turn heel in the first place. So I think it's more of Hulk Hogan turning heel that really fascinated people and not the NWO as a whole. So in this case, I might have to say no.
Ryan, what do you say about the NWO?
As someone who loved WCW, I was like the reverse opposite of Kirk. I bought into the NWO. And to me, peak NWO is the war between Black and White and the Wolf Pack. I still remember the theme song, Sting. And the funny thing about that with the behind the scenes, if Hulk Hogan didn't join, but even then they had a backup. They were originally going to have Sting become the third man of the NWO, which could have set a huge different trajectory. But that's what ifs. And I can talk about that with friends later on about what ifs. But I'm on the same mindset of Kirk that there are some wrestlers in that group organization that shouldn't deserve the recognition, because even at the Hall of Fame ceremony, they had members like Sean Waltman. Even though Sean Waltman, he is a great wrestler on his own, him being aligned with the NWO was not something he needed recognition for. And it's got to be the same with a few other wrestlers, because while NWO was WCW's greatest weapon, it ended up being its ultimate Achilles heel. So the second time we do a list, NWO is going on, just not on this one.
Yeah, this one, like my vote doesn't matter now, but I probably would have slightly leaned towards a yes. And I think officially the ones going into the Hall of Fame is Hogan, Nash,
And Hall,
and Waltman. Those are the four that are the NWO that's actually being nominated in this. But with that, we go to Kirk for his next nomination.
Okay, I think we got 4 spots left, so I don't think it's going to get back to me. So there's one guy that I want to make sure gets brought up and hopefully gets voted in. This guy I think is maybe just pound for pound what he did in the ring, what he did out of the ring, maybe the best ever, and that is Macho Man Randy Savage. Randy Savage did it all. He was a fantastic heel. Just a flamboyant heel. He was a great face when he was a face. He was a power guy. He was the first like heavyweight guy in that era to like come off the top rope and do aerial stuff. He was maybe the best all time at promos, and just watching him cut a promo and just watching him. You go back now and watch what he does when he's on the mic, when he's on camera, when he's in the ring. He has a reputation as a person for being kind of out of control, but just how in control he was of his character. Like every finger point, every bite of the lip, every, looking around, everything you could tell was so calculated and so controlled, and so, telling you a story about that character and what that character was going through. He had, still considered one of the greatest matches of all time, his match against Ricky Steamboat in WrestleMania 3. His feud with Hogan, his feud with Flair later on. Just had that long career. I mean, going back to like Mid-South, like late 70s, early 80s. just, I mean, again, like I said, you put together what he was able to do in the ring. You know, without Michaels or without Savage, you don't have a Shawn Michaels. His ring work, his work rate, and his mic skills. Like I said, I don't know if you put all that package together, anybody else did it as good as him.
Andrea, what do you say about Randy Savage?
I'm gonna have to say yes for the Macho Man, Randy Savage. He's very, very entertaining, both on the mic and in the ring. He, whenever he plays the heel, he really plays it up inside the ring. So he's very, very entertaining to watch. He's also very technical in a sense. He wrestles very well. So I'm gonna have to say yes for the Macho Man.
Ryan, what do you say about Randy Savage?
Brother, let me tell you something. No, no, here it is. The Macho Man is, of course, getting a yes into this list. The Macho Man knew how to bring everyone in, even if he had to give you just a slight look, the slight waggle of his finger, the intensity of his eyes. His match with Ricky Steamboat at WrestleMania 3 nearly tore the house down and stole the show over Andre and Hulk Hogan. And also, his legacy afterward. This is one wrestler who I actually was willing to buy a rap album off of. His Savage was Jim is still one of my favorite catchphrases. And also, his legacy down the road of Ring of Honor wrestler Jay Lethal. He did an homage to Macho Man Randy Savage that I got to see at All In when the Young Bucks and Cody Rhodes put together their own pay-per-view. So that's a yes for the Macho Man. Okay.
I mean, I think he did that wrong. He doesn't just get a yes; he gets a "oh yeah." Old sword is ready. But yeah, like Randy Savage is an easy yes for me. Richard, what would you have said?
Bonesaw is ready. Of course he would have got a yes from me. he's so much fun. But I will disagree with Kirk saying that without mounting, we would still have Shawn Michaels because we still had Dusty Rhodes. I say he was more of a Dusty Rhodes character than he was ever a Macho Man, even though he did one elbow drop. Yes. And that's the only thing I disagree with Kurt about. We still have Shawn Michaels.
Yeah.
But yeah, I should have totally invited Kevin Smith just to do a Randy Savage impersonation. But with that, Andrea, what is your next nomination?
Okay, my next nomination would have to be the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever. I'm nominating Bret the Hitman Hart. He's one of those guys that's very technical in the ring. He's very his rival is quite legendary. He's okay on the mic, but it's really his technical way of wrestling is really sells his character for me, and so I'm nominating him for the Hall of Fame.
Ryan, what do you say about Bret Hart?
He was literally the next guy I was going to suggest for this list. I mean, a part of me was going to be torn whether if I wanted to do Bret Hart or the Hart Foundation. Either variation was him, either Bret, Jim Anvil, or Bret and Owen. But even then, Bret Hart was still like one of the core members of that group. And even then, he was not just a great wrestler, but he was someone who, at the time, during the time when you were transitioning of the time of Hogan and Power, or at least with the big wrestlers, Bret Hart was one of the technical wrestlers. The wrestlers that showed through their ability and skill in the ring that they can still win over a crowd, like his match with British Bulldog at SummerSlam, which is more. Which, even though it has its infamous, it has that slight infamously known for the fact that Bulldog forgot everything before going in and Bret. But even then, Bret still carried him to deliver an emotionally charged match. And even his match against Owen Hart at WrestleMania 10. Well, even though Bret lost, he not only proved that match not only proved that Owen Hart was just as better as Bret, but even Bret in his character showed the regarding the respect, and then later on winning against Yokozuna. Like, Bret has some of the better matches when it comes to getting that story over with just the small amounts of technical movements. And of course, the famous double turn at WrestleMania 13 against Stone Cold Steve Austin. So that is a yes for Bret Hart.
Yeah, yeah. This is one that if you were going to tell me that Bret Hart was going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame, especially after the whole thing that he had with WWE after the Montreal Screwjob, but I would have said you're crazy, but now like he's in there twice, I believe, one with himself
and the Hart Foundation.
Yeah, so like now he's now in there tries. So yeah, this is going. Yes, like Bret Hart is a great wrestler. He's one of the first ones that I watched matches of when I started getting into WWE. And it's just one of those ones that I think is a really entertaining and all that. Richard, what would you have said about Bret Hart?
It was either between the NWO and Bret Hart, and I'm glad someone else nominated Bret Hart because I should have nominated Bret Hart myself. He's absolutely 100% yes. I do disagree with Andrea though. He's fantastic on the mic. He's not as flashy as everyone else, but he is fantastic on the mic. His feuds against Diesel, Shawn Michaels, Stone Cold Steve Austin have just been phenomenal. There was a reason why he calls himself the best there is, the best there was, the best he'll ever will be, the excellence of execution. He's just fantastic. And the Montreal Screwjob is still one of the most memorable things that have ever happened in WWE. I mean, bad way, but it's a yes. He's fantastic.
But Kirk, what would you have said about Bret Hart?
Yeah, I think my biggest problem with Bret Hart is he's a great wrestler, and he's the first person who would tell you, he was the biggest mark for his own brand. But yeah, he was. If you go back, I remember as a very young kid watching the Hart Foundation as a heel team with Jimmy Hart, and just how incredibly hateable they were, and just their feud with the British Bulldogs. And I think I don't think I got angrier at any point as a kid watching wrestling than when the Hart Foundation was on. And then you go on. I think it was WrestleMania 4. He won that. The Battle Royal with Brad News Brown and started that feud. I think that's really what started to kickstart, kind of planted the seed for his singles career. It didn't come a little bit until later. But yeah, he was great as a tag team player, worked his way up through there. He was a great Intercontinental champion, had to run with that. And then, yeah, once he hit that world title scene with his match with Flair and Diesel, Bob Backlund, all those guys, anybody he fought, he elevated it. Yeah, Ryan mentioned some of his best matches: SummerSlam against British Bulldog, Owen Hart, WrestleMania 10. In an era when matches were all about story and the big guys and just stuff, he really, got over just on his technical skill alone. And just from a cultural standpoint, like you said, Montreal. Without Montreal, there's really not the Monday Night Wars we remember. That was a huge part of that. So, yeah, Bret Hart definitely belongs on this list.
Yeah.
And also, Bret Hart was in my favorite match of all time, Bret Hart versus Shawn Michaels Iron Man match, WrestleMania.
Yeah. And despite, for me, one of my favorite entertaining matches that he was involved in was I think he was facing either Triple H or Mr. McMahon, where all the rest of the Hart came out.
It was Vince.
Yeah, despite on what people may think about their match, I thought it was entertaining. So, but anyway, Ryan, who's the next one you're going to nominate?
Well, I know this is going to be difficult, and there are so many wrestlers on here, but you know what? I'm going to go with a wrestler that, he has the recognition, but I forgot exactly how big he was during his time, and that is Sergeant Slaughter. I'm picking Sergeant Slaughter because, of course, everyone remembers his character. He's the militant sergeant, goes down the ring. He was very well known for his Cobra Clutch submission. The man, clearly at the time during the WWF, when it was all about patriotism, this man was so big, he had his own action figure doll. He was made as a character in G.I. Joe cartoon series. And then, yes, there was also his heel turn during the Iraq War, how everyone felt that was people looking back thinking it was not the right move. But even during that time, Sergeant Slaughter as a heel still maybe not have drawn the kind of ire that Vince wanted, but it still drew him that heel heat to where he did beat Hogan to become champion at that time. And it was whoever beat him would be elevated to the next, not like the highest level, but to the next top baby face there. So I will give Sergeant Slaughter a nomination. I mean, he's nominated. He's my choice to nominate.
But yeah, I'll be a bit quick on this. This one's a no. Like, I never really connect with Sergeant Slaughter, but then saying that I'm not American either, so I mean, there's probably that as well. But it's like he was entertaining, but I don't think he belongs in the top 12 Hall of Famers. Richard,
It's an also no for me. He was entertaining on the mic, but he was just not a good wrestler. Like, he was very sloppy in the ring. It's a no for me.
Yeah.
Kirk, what do you say about Sergeant Slaughter?
Yeah, I mean, I like the nomination. I like his name being brought up, but just with some of the names that still aren't on this list, I think, like I said, if we did, let's call this our first class, and if we do our seg classes down the road, Slaughter's definitely one of those guys. I mean, he was around for a long time. Like you said, the pop culture thing. I remember watching him on GI Joes. Probably still have his action figure somewhere, and he's. He was a lot of fun. That run he had with beating Warrior and then Hogan at WrestleMania 7 was memorable. But I think we got a few other guys still need to make this list.
And Andrea, what would you have said about Slaughter?
He's very entertaining. That's his character is entertaining. But maybe I'm not also an American, so I would have. I don't really get it. So
Don't worry.
I'm gonna also vote no. But maybe if there is another list, he might make it there.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing personal.
Yeah.
I didn't want the American part to lean on. It was just like at the time, if you looked during WWE during that time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I totally get that part. It's just that I don't get
I get
character per se.
Yeah, I get that's probably what. But with that being said, it's on me, and I'm going to try the same tactic that Richard did. I'm going to try for a group that's going to get a multiple bunch of people on at the same time. One of the people is actually on this list already, and I've got 2 words for you, and that's D-Generation X. This is like Triple H, Shawn Michaels, Kevin Nash. No, not Kevin Nash.
China.
Yeah.
You're talking about the Generation X channel, yeah, because I'm thinking of the original. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, the one with
Yeah.
But like this is the only way we're going to get Triple H on here because he's not on his own just yet. But it's only a matter of time before that happens. But yeah, like officially the inducted class is Triple H, Michaels, China, Road Dogg, X-Pac, and Billy Gunn. Yeah. This group of people is like, while they have become a joke, became a joke of a lot of the time, but it's one of those ones that every time they're on screen, they're still really entertaining. This and all that, and yeah. Richard, what do you say about D-Generation X?
I love DX. And like they're just fantastic. They're another big reason why WWF won the Monday Night Wars. I'm gonna say yes, but not because because their gimmicks were funny as hell. But this group consists of the New Age Outlaws, probably one of my favorite tag teams, underrated tag teams of all time. So much fun. Road Dogg Jesse James was a great hardcore champion. Billy Gunn I thought was a great intercontinental champion on its own. Triple H is a fantastic wrestler. Shawn Michaels, of course, is Shawn Michaels. And Chyna, she helped shape the women wrestling as well. So I'll always say yes for those reasons, not just for the DX gimmick.
Kirk, what do you say about DX?
I'm going to say no because there is another group, obviously. If we're going to put a stable in here, we've got 2 slots left. If we're going to put a stable in, I think there's another stable that belongs to be in here much more than DX does. It's a stable, I think, that is the stable that the reason why all these others exist. And I think there are people in that stable who deserve to be on this more than DX guys. I'm the exact opposite of Richard. Another reason I'm saying no is because I cannot abide Billy Gunn and Road Dogg being on a Hall of Fame list. I did not like those guys at all. I did not like them on the mic. I did not like them in the ring. I did not think they were. I think they rode coattails and they didn't have much going for them on their own. So yeah, I'm a no on DX.
Andrea, what do you say about DX?
This is tough because I can see both sides of the coin. But if for sheer entertainment value, I'm gonna say yes because during that time, DX was like, I'm really into anti-establishment guys. That's why I liked Stone Cold Steve Austin during that time. So I'm gonna have to say yes. Also because of the fact that up to this day, I'm still wondering what would happen if Eric Bischoff allowed DX into the into the WCW arena when they tried to invade it.
And they do make the list. Why would you have said?
Oh God. Okay.
Well,
there
they haven't made the list yet.
we
So,
go.
I thought you said. Oh no, you said
I'm
no.
the one who not. I'm the one who not. Oh no, wait.
I
Oh, no,
nominated.
You nominated them, Richard.
I did
Kirk
say yes.
said
Yeah,
no.
they're on the list. Sorry, my bad.
Wait, what?
Sorry,
Kirk said no, I said yes.
I said yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's no. That's just two. I haven't said anything yet.
Well, I nominated them.
Oh, you nominated them. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I had the same like.
I'm lost track. I would have actually given this a slight no because I like DX. I honestly hardcore fan of the New Age Outlaws. My favorite tag team over so many different combinations, which when you had the time of the Rock Mankind, I mean you had the Acolytes, you had the Hardys and Edge and Christian, the Dudleys. They were still one of my favorites. I was a big China fan. I wanted to see that what if she had won, if she had challenged Stone Cold for the WWF Championship. Sorry, hold on. I'm sorry. I swear. She's okay for 1 minute and then she just falls off. Okay. But I was saying, yeah, I would have loved to have seen that what if scenario if China had actually been the one to challenge Stone Cold instead of having to rerun, having to, course correct and insert Mankind and Triple H in that match at SummerSlam. But I still would have given this a no because there were a few others. Like in our second class, for the second class of Hall of Famers, I would have definitely thrown DX on there. Like there were given so many honorable mentions, but since DX, but it wouldn't have mattered. DX is already on.
We've got one spot left. Richard, what is your nomination?
Well, I'm gonna I know Kurt's gonna nominate, which I think we'll get through hopefully. But I'm gonna nominate this person because I do like him. I don't think he'll get on this list, but he's just fantastic on the mic. He was pretty decent in the ring. He was so much fun to watch. I'm going with Hot Rod Roddy Piper. Piper's Pit, probably so fantastic. Like he was fun in the ring. His feud against the Dragon. Like just so many people he's feud with, especially probably my favorite feud. It was just weird during like the Monday Night Wars. It was Roddy Piper versus Goldust. That was such a fun feud for a little bit, and so I'm gonna go with Hot Rod Roddy Piper. The Piper's Pit was so iconic.
Kirk, what do you say about Roddy Piper?
That's rough. Piper is one of those iconic guys. He transcends wrestling. He's one of the few wrestling actors who is actually good. Like I enjoy watching him act. They Live is a great movie and he's great in it. He had that again. He was a huge part of that early '80s boom or that mid '80s boom in WWF with his feud with Hogan. And he was another guy like Heenan. He was the perfect heel. He knew how to play it up. He knew how to take a beating and make you feel good about him losing and getting beat up. And when he turned face, he was a great face. I know we only got one spot left, and there's other guys that I want to get nominated. But I'll leave it up to the rest of you because I can't say no to Roddy Piper.
Andrea, what do you say about Roddy Piper?
Yeah, I also can't say no, so I'm gonna say yes to Roddy Piper. He really influenced a lot of the in-segment talk shows because of the Piper's Pit.
Mm-hmm.
He's also very entertaining on the mic. Great wrestler. He has it all. He's also a great heel, especially. You really want to punch his face again. I keep on saying that term, but it's true. You really want to. He's such a great heel that you really can't stand the guy. And so I'm saying yes to Roddy Piper.
And with that, Roddy Piper does make this list. Ryan, what would you have said about Roddy?
Yeah, Roddy would have been a yes, because not just the fact of how good he was as a heel, but the dimensions he's shown, whether he was in the ring, really showing you exactly how you can be a heel in the ring with the thumb to the eye, blind, you be using dirty tactics with the ref behind his back. The fact that his sleeper hold, it was one of the few wrestling moves that not only it worked for him, but he even made work in the ring, and also even when he was not wrestling as much, his second win with the Piper's Pit. And then also his time in WCW, even though he was switching between a face and a heel at times, like Ric Flair, I got introduced to him as a face. So seeing him as a heel is just one of those second times where I'm seeing a whole new look at this man, where I'm seeing so many different dimensions. And Roddy influenced a lot of people, even whatever your feelings are about Ronda Rousey, she never would have really had any interest if she was not a fan of Roddy Piper. I mean, the fact that she went to the ring in Roddy Piper's in one of Roddy Piper's wrestling jackets shows exactly how the legacy that Roddy Piper left.
Yeah, and I if I remember rightly, I think Roddy Piper actually gave Ronda the blessing to use the nickname Rowdy.
Rowdy.
Yeah. But yeah, I would have been with Kirk. Like, as much as there's other people that I wanted to get on the list. There's no way I could say no to Roddy Piper. He's like, his influence is just too far gone. But with that, we have reached the end of the list. So, but we get to the fun part. We get to rank them. But before we do that, going to go to honorable mentions. Kirk, what honorable mentions did you have?
My honorable mentions: a couple of Pittsburgh's favorite sons, Bruno Sammartino and Kurt Angle. I think are two guys could have made this list. My Sergeant Slaughter pick, I guess, is something along those lines. Ryan would have done, or Ryan did Slaughter. Mine would have been Jake Roberts. I think he was just such a great personality and such a great force for so long. And obviously, we danced around it all night. Nobody brought it up Four Horsemen. Arn Anderson should be in the Hall of Fame by himself, and he should be on this list in the Horsemen just so his name's there somewhere.
Yeah. Andrea, what mentions did you have?
I have first off, I have Hulk Hogan. We just missed the list.
Yeah.
I also have Jim Ross and Mean Gene Okerlund.
Wow.
That
hurts.
Yeah, Ryan, what mentions did you have?
Well, I had the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. I also would have thrown in Eddie Guerrero as well. Also, the Mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart. And then, of course, someone from the past as well. If it wasn't going to be Sergeant Slaughter, I would have made a play for Buddy Rogers, the original Nature Boy. And then it would have just been a mixture of later additions, like with some of my favorite female wrestlers, like Lita or Trish Stratus.
Man.
For me, I was going to nominate the Bellatrons, Donald Trump. In all serious, no, for me, a lot of the ones I would have done would have been said, but for me, I would have tried to play for Mick Foley. I would have tried for Vincent J. McMahon and I mean, like as a Kiwi, I probably would have attempted to get the Bushwhackers on the list. They are entertaining, and they deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. And last but not least, Richard had any honorable mentions.
Yeah, I mean, besides the ones that were mentioned, I would have Hacksaw Jim Duggan would have been my American. I mean, everyone else basically said maybe I would have tried for which one was? No, I think the only one that I had extra was Jim Duggan. The Dudley Boys maybe as well. I love the Dudley Boys.
I came close to Harlem Heat, honestly. I came close to them.
And Jerry the King Lawler, also for not only for his wrestling skills but his commentary as well.
That's another one that I found really on a trend on this list. There's really not a lot of people of color on the list, but you got people like Mark Henry, Harlem Heat, Pedro, who made this.
I would have also suggested Ron Simmons, but he's more known for his WCW career. And even though he's more of a tag team wrestler in the WWF, I still loved his team, the APA.
Yeah, I love the APA too.
But
they have like a door and a table.
Like seriously, we can have 3 different classes of lists for the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
this is a rich area.
But in saying that, we're going to the fun part of where we rank them. So we write down on our whiteboard or bit of paper whatever we have handy on who we want to be 12, 11, and so on. I've already got mine written down. But Richard, I'll start with you.
I went with Mae Young.
Kirk.
Also Mae Young.
Andrea.
Yeah, my
You
name
can
is Young too.
I'll give her some time. Oh, she.
Okay.
It's all good.
Young too.
It's all good. I figured it was probably going to be that anyway.
Unanimously Mae Young, because I would have. Yeah, I would have been the odd man out. I would have said DX.
I mean, it's one of those ones like, well, yeah, I was the one that brought up Mae Young. It's like,
well, it wasn't that. It was just kind of like
compared to the other people on the list. I mean,
Yeah.
Mae Young is the 12th spot.
yeah, trust me, I have no problem like recommending what I have on the lower list. I'm trying not to be personal.
but there we go on to 11. Kirk, what do you have for 11?
I said DX.
Andrea.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to say DX too.
And Brian.
Well, yeah, I stayed with it. DX.
DX. Richard.
DX.
Oh man, it gets hard from here, man.
Yeah.
Yikes. It's tough.
I mean, they're
It's
on the
tough.
list. They're on this list, so I mean that's a bonus.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Those are the 2 easy ones for me from here. It's like, geez, who do you take?
Yeah. Oh man.
This is hard.
This one's hard. Okay, I got my choice, but not by.
Yeah,
This was not an easy decision.
by a hair.
Andrea, what do you have for 10?
Because I'm not familiar with his work, I'm gonna have to say Pedro Morales.
Brian.
I actually went with Bobby the Brain Heenan.
For the same reason as Andrea, I actually read Pedro. Richard.
Same reason as you guys, Pedro Morales. I just don't know much about him.
Kirk.
I said Roddy.
This is tough.
Yeah. It's not going to get easier.
No, it's gonna keep chopping at us.
Definitely not.
It's going to take us 3 hours just to get to.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, at least we went under 2 hours to make the list. I think, Richard, there hasn't been one list where you and I have never gone over 90 minutes just to before we get to
But Ryan, what do you have?
I'm actually going with the Word Warriors on this one.
I'm going Rowdy Roddy Piper. Richard.
I went Bobby Heenan.
Oh.
What, Kirk?
I said Piper as well.
Ooh.
And Andrea.
It's fair though.
I said Andre.
Oh. Piper's on the list.
I mean, it's a great spot. Like compared to these talents, I still got mine.
It's I was yeah.
It's not gonna be like, oh my God, Roddy deserves to be in top 5. It's like, hey, you come on here and try to decide who goes where.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is tough, man. Because our picks are really, really.
These are just
there.
very good. They are so good. It's like those rare times where we actually
I gotta switch mine. It's just those rare times out of the entire roster that WWE has nominated, we've actually picked the cream of the crop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, this is going to hurt for me to do this, but I've got Ric Flair at 8.
Wow.
Richard,
I have Andre the Giant.
Kirk,
I went Stone Cold.
Andrea,
I said the Road Warriors.
Damn.
Brian.
I changed my answer again. I said Bobby Heenan. So
What are we?
You know what? I will change my answer to Bobby Heenan.
do we have anybody in comments for us?
Yeah, do we have
Yeah,
I will change my answer to Bobby Heenan because that's who I first wrote down. Then I was like thinking about it, but I'm fine with Bobby Heenan being number 8. I think like that's still a fantastic spot.
yeah. I mean, it's what I would have ended up being would be I use the real app on my phone.
Yeah.
So what do we do? It's number 7?
Number 7.
Yeah.
Number
Yeah.
7.
Oh my god.
I will say it's a very rare moment that on a 5-person panel we have a tie.
Yeah. And nobody in the chat to be the tiebreaker.
Yeah.
Honestly, for this topic, I'm slightly not surprised. Like I did think we would have had people like Nico or Hunter pop up in the chat.
Yeah.
But it's like
Well,
a lot of people in this community are more movie fan than wrestling.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's just rare. I mean, even some of
Yeah.
the shows I do with even some of the wrestling people I talk to, they're not willing to,
Yeah.
talk about it.
But Richard, what do you have for 7?
I switched my answers again. I went to the Road Warriors.
Kirk,
I said Flair this time.
Andrea,
I said Andre the Giant. He's already.
Ryan,
I went Stone Cold.
Well, luckily I did not have my answer.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I like Ric Flair. I mean, the only reason I was kind of doing him low is like, it's part of me is regrets, like not putting up the 4 Horsemen because I think he's better in that
Wait,
as opposed to.
Again,
Could
I
you
would
give me a
disagree with
quick
that.
rundown on who we have already from 12 to 7?
Yeah,
Oh wait.
so basically, the people that we've got left to rank, we've got Shawn Michaels, we've got Andre the Giant, Stone Cold, the Road Warriors, Randy Savage,
Yeah.
and Bret Hart.
Yep.
Okay.
Who's first?
Kirk,
I went back to Stone Cold.
Andrea,
I went Andre again. Andre the Giant.
Ryan.
I keep flipping back and forth because I went to the Road Warriors again.
Yeah, this hurts putting them this low, but I put Road Warriors.
And I also put Road Warriors, so we didn't say either way. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm gonna erase the
Okay.
so I have more room.
I think this is like the most inconsistent of when we come to like who we're trying to vote into this.
Well, because I'm trying to be objective, but
Yeah, so am I.
then it's like
Yeah.
my heart is like, oh, I want to see him in this rank, but I'm like, come on.
I mean, I think it's there's the first time in a while no one's sort of if the thing they nominated didn't get to that point, they didn't stick with that and keep trying it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we'll be a lot more strategic now than usual.
I mean, I really like this list. So really,
Yeah.
like for this most part, like there's no wrong answer at this point.
Exactly.
Yep.
But Andrea, who do you have for 5?
I wrote Andre the Giant again.
Ryan.
Well, he had a great run. I don't know if anyone else picked him. I went back to Stone Cold.
I went Randy Savage. Richard.
I went Andre the Giant. Compared to the rest, he's
Kurt.
the odd man
Yeah.
out.
I went Stone Cold.
Oh, it's a tie.
Malcolm, you're the tiebreaker.
Oh,
I mean, I gotta stick with Andre. I think compared to the two, it's
Oh,
Stone
yeah.
Cold.
Well,
Yeah.
Malcolm would be the tiebreaker, right?
Yeah,
It's a
Malcolm.
tiebreaker.
Yeah.
But I'm going to do my usual thing and just not saying anything. You'll see my decision when it pops up
Okay.
as a batter.
Okay.
yay!
Wait, who
Oh,
is
this
Randy
is
Savage, Stone Cold, Bret Hart.
Man,
Stone Cold,
We have
Savage,
Shawn Michaels,
Bret
Stone
Hart,
Cold.
and Shawn Michaels. Those are our last four.
shoot, man. This is like. Oh my
I would have,
gosh.
I would have loved to see that as a faction: Stone Cold, Shawn Michaels, Randy Savage.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's.
I mean, if Vince had ever had the goal to actually listen to his wrestlers, like we would have had ourselves a Randy Savage and Shawn Michaels rivalry. I mean,
Well, And I mean,
Yeah,
just
that would have been awesome. That would be like through the roof, man.
yeah.
I mean, just having Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels on the same faction together after the Montreal Screwjob would be
Yeah.
But Ryan, who do you have for 4?
Well, since he didn't get on, I'm staying with Stone Cold.
I'm sticking with Savage. Right,
I'm going with the person who's had a couple wrestling mistakes, especially in the Royal Rumble, Randy Savage.
Kirk,
I went Stone Cold.
Andrea,
I went
Wait.
Bret Hart.
You're the tiebreaker, Andrea.
so Stone Cold or Randy Savage.
Huh. This is hard, man. Ooh. Man, why does it have to be the top 4?
What do you choose, diamond or gold?
Randy
Or diamond
Savage.
or ruby?
Randy. Ugh, okay.
I mean, it's a tough call, but I remember that whole Royal Rumble when he was trying to get eliminated. It was so
Yeah,
funny. It was,
So was it Randy that you put it for?
Yeah,
She's
Andrea?
picking
Actually,
Randy.
no right or wrong answers at this point.
yeah.
No, it's more of a case. I was just making sure that you cut out a little bit for me. So.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's all.
Oh my God! Just look at the last 3. We're literally gonna do a Montreal Screwjob today. Who's next?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Richard, who do you have for 3?
I'm choosing this person because of his kind of bad attitude toward the company towards the end of his career. I went Bret Hart, but that was a tough one.
I stuck with Stone Cold.
Andrea,
I went Stone Cold.
Ryan,
I can mirror Brett's bad attitude towards the company because I'm feeling the same way right now. But it's still Stone Cold.
Okay, that's fair.
yeah, I read.
I love Stone Cold. I really love the guy, but it was just out of this entire list. I just didn't see him above Randy or Andre. But hey, it's not my opinion. It's not my opinion.
But now,
It's a consensus of the group, so.
But now, instead of doing our number 2s, they're going to go straight to number 1.
So this is who you guys think.
Here we go, Montreal.
All of
This is going to be interesting because
Montreal.
one of these 2 has not come up at all in the nomination process. The other one has. So.
yeah.
So we're nominating for the top spot, right?
Our number
Yeah.
one.
You're number
Yeah,
one.
number
Yeah.
1. Yeah, but the other one will become 2 by default. Andrea, who do you have for number 1?
I'm gonna have to go with Shawn Michaels.
Ryan,
Best there is, best there was, and the best there ever will be. Bret Hart.
I went Shawn Michaels. Right,
Uh,
Richard.
My favorite wrestler of all time. He is Mr. WrestleMania, the showstopper. Way better than Bret Hart. It's Shawn Michaels.
Thank you.
Okay, I was the only one. I was the only one who went with Bret.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those ones like anyone watching
Montreal
see it
job all over again.
just
It's
because
like deja vu, man.
The reason why Shawn Michaels was my first nomination. He's my favorite wrestler of all time.
And I don't doubt that. His second career is fantastic. I was just, it was just kind of just like looking at everything that Brett went through with that company and the fact he came back and was able to at least get closure.
And honestly, to me, like he's one of the few wrestlers who got better with age.
Yeah.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
But with that, just to recap our top 12. At 12, we've got Mae Young. At 11, we've got DX. At 10, we've got Pedro Morales. At 9, we've got Rowdy Roddy Piper. At 8, we've got Bobby the Brain Heenan. At 7, we've got Ric Flair. At 6, we've got the Road Warriors. At 5, we've got Andre the Giant. At 4, we've got Randy Savage. At 3, we've got Stone Cold Steve Austin. At 2, we've got Bret Hart. And at number 1, we've got Shawn Michaels. But with that being said, we've reached the end of this list. The poll is already up on the Take 3 page for next week's topic. So go vote on that. Richard, where can people find you online?
Facebook under Richard Schwartz, YouTube, Twitter, External Void, Twitch, External Void 1, and me stuck home in LA because quarantine. Yay.
Where can people find you online?
I'm on Facebook, same place. You find these guys, you'll probably find me somewhere. And Letterboxd, Kirk Kolkowski, Kirk Howell. Find me there. Talk about movies.
Also, I'm not going to lie, I'm kind of surprised Kirk did not bring up Killer Kowalski. These are the two names.
He's also an honorable mention, but I just didn't think no one would nominate. I just didn't think we'd get the consensus.
But where can people find you online?
Yeah, YouTube, and I'm on YouTube in different leagues. I'm also on Facebook and Twitter at my name here. So catch you guys.
And Ryan, where can people find you online?
Yes, Facebook under my name, Ryan Payne. Follow me on Twitter with my username, Caramel Payne. And then also check me out on YouTube where I have a brand new show about the movie trivia Schmodown called Mount Schmodown, where myself and 2 other hosts, we do a breakdown and retrospective of the careers of many movie Schmodown players. We just got started, so our first episode was on Scott Mance. Our latest episode is on Josh McCouga, and then our episode next week is going to be on Elliot Dewberry and the Wildberries. All of our episodes have been pre-recorded. We're building to our first live episode to have a great chat. So just go on YouTube, subscribe, or just check out our videos. Get those views up, like, subscribe. I'm doing the whole jig here, but yeah, check out Mount Schmodown.
But yeah, and you can find me over on Take 3 Productions, where I host 2 shows. I have Late Night Take 3 every Friday. Next week's topic hasn't been determined yet. And you can find me in Rankin on today's, said today's, and once again, that topic is to be determined, but they'll be announced tomorrow. You can also find me over on Full Metal, where I host Full Metal Classic and Full Metal Random. This week's Full Metal Random is going to be movie quotes, in which Ryan Permison is taking on Jay Burns and Mark Meyer. And also, tomorrow on Full Metal After Classic, I'm going to do for the film franchise tier again. I've kind of made my own and rejigged it from last time. I'm going to figure out a way to make it go quicker, but I'm starting a little bit earlier as well because it was clear starting at 9 was probably not the wisest choice last time. But Kirk will be on there. I've also got Dan. I cannot remember the other 2. I think Chadwick is one of them. But with that being said, we have reached the end. And until next time, keep listening shit.